Um, I was thinking about this story, and it was actually, I'm surprised it's actually 9 years ago now, almost 10 years ago when I first heard about Bitcoin and got involved. And so I hope my memory is still good through all these years. Um, but I was actually in Japan at the time, and I saw Bitcoin in really big letters on the front page of a major Japanese newspaper. And that to me, that was the first time I ever heard of it. And I thought this was really strange. Like, why is this monopoly money on this respected newspaper? And so I started researching it that night, actually. Got hooked quite quickly, kept researching it for a few days. And then it kind of clicked to me that, okay, there's actually something here. It's not just monopoly money. There's something important. And that was really the start of getting into, I guess, owning Bitcoin. And further on, I ended up working in the industry also. So I'm with a company that makes hardware wallets called the Bitbox hardware wallet. And getting to that stage, as the more you read about Bitcoin, the more you understand it's a pretty deep topic. You can go really far down. And then I just started realizing that, this is something I think that's kind of important for society. It's a bit of a revolution in how we kind of think about a lot of different things, money, first of all, but even things beyond that. And personally, I thought, okay, this is really interesting. I want to be involved somehow. And at the time, my whole life had been in academia. I was actually a neuroscientist. I was doing a postdoc at the University of Tokyo. And the next step there would be to be a professor. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that. I like working on things that I think can change the world. So studying the brain is definitely one. And I think Bitcoin is also another. And I wasn't really sure how I could get a job coming from like a bio background, even though I had some engineering before that. And so I just decided, okay, maybe I just try to make my own company and then I can give myself a job. I think there's a lot of advantages in different aspects. And so different ones are going to be important for different people. Maybe I can start with a technical reason and I'll try to make it non-technical. Since as a scientist, that was my big attraction to Bitcoin at the beginning, was it actually solved what was considered an unsolved problem in the field of computer science, which is called the Byzantine generals problem. And putting that very simply, it just means how can you send money, for example, anything over the internet, especially money, where the other person can be confident that what you did send is what I'm going to get, and you didn't like spend the same money somewhere else. It's called a double spend issue, and Bitcoin solved this in an interesting, elegant way that's been proven now for over a decade. And at the time, I was like, okay, I don't know about Bitcoin. There's some altcoins also. I don't know about altcoins, but this simple fact that you can send money over the internet without needing to trust anyone and without needing a central authority or any middleman is just really powerful. And that can be, whole industries can evolve out of that, which are evolving today. And I think from non-technical point of views, the fact that there's a fixed supply of Bitcoin at 21 million, it can't just be inflated away. And so I think that gives a lot of incentives for people to treat it as an asset where, you can use it for retirement, things like that, without having to worry about a government, because of their lack of responsibility and how they spend their funds, basically needs to print money to get out of the hole and inflates away your life savings. I think that's something for Western society or the whole world, but also specific to other jurisdictions where maybe the government is less friendly, I would say, to the society. You can have a form of money where you can actually not have censorship over it, not have confiscation over it, and you can use that money for the greater good of society individually without relying on your government. And that's happening in a lot of jurisdictions around the world. And of course, there's a lot of other advantages too. Again, you could go down the rabbit hole pretty deeply. I guess I would interpret that question to be like maybe other personal data, such as maybe your health or your government ID, things like that, which a lot of countries do want to make those digital. I think the answer is yes in the future. I think it's probably a bit too early right now. But it reminds me of when I founded the company. I was actually pitching this idea. And at the time, like one of the hardest things about a company, interesting for me at least, was actually picking the name. And so I picked the name Shift Devices as the original company name. It's now changed. And this idea there was Edward Snowden was in the news a lot at that time. And I felt that people are becoming more and more aware of what it means to have data online, what it means to have privacy, and what it means for that privacy to be very fragile, in the sense that governments in the United States in particular are basically spying on a lot of this. And so I felt that people wanted to do something, but the tools didn't really exist for them to do something about it. And so I wanted to create devices to help shift people's not only perspective, but their behavior. And so Shift Devices was thought up. And then cryptocurrencies were an obvious first application, Bitcoin in particular. And so we focused on that. But then part of the idea was that eventually, anything valuable that you have online can be protected in the same way. And that can be, like I said before, your health information or your government ID or whatever gets put online. A lot of people at the time pushed back on that and saying, well, look at Facebook. Everyone's putting everything on there. They don't care about privacy. But the thing is, it's like, there are certain things that people do care about privacy. For example, do you want to put your wage salary statements or your bank account balances on Facebook every month? Probably not. Do you want to put your health records on Facebook every month? Probably not. And so there are certain things that are going to be important to keep safe. And what we believe the best way to do that is with something similar to hardware wallets, where you keep the secrets offline so they don't touch your computer or your phone, where they could be susceptible or seen by a hacker or malware, and basically have a physical key for the digital world that you can use as simply as you would like opening your apartment door, just turning a key. People still have keys to their apartment doors in their pocket, the keys to their cars in their pocket. And I think, certain things you just don't want online because they're easily stolen. So yes, eventually, I think right now from a business point of view, focus is important and timing the market's important. So I think that will come in the future. The answer you typically hear is Bitcoin enables financial independence or financial sovereignty. What that means is you can do whatever you want with your money without anyone being able to tell you no. So there's censorship resistance. You don't need permission from anyone to get the money, to send the money. I think a bit more concretely, how that happens is Bitcoin takes away two things. One is the middleman, and another is central authorities, which are governing the control of the monetary parameters, how much money exists, how easily you can use it, what rules there are to spend it. For example, if you want to send a lot of money, like $10,000 or more, you can run into a lot of friction with that, get a lot of questions, have to show your face, have to talk to people, and so on and so on. And so if you're taking away middlemen and central authorities, then that allows, of course, the whole monetary system to be a lot cheaper. So you can send $10,000, you can send $1 million around the world within seconds, within minutes, and for cents it costs to send it. It can be more efficient, more faster. Of course, you remove the censorship. Governments can't freeze your account. They can't inflate away your life savings, like I mentioned before. It forces governments to be a bit more responsible with how they're actually handling the taxpayer money that they get. And I think in the long run, what will happen is that hopefully governments will then try to provide better services to the people. There'd be a better alignment of interest between the taxpayers and the people in controlling the tax money. Yeah, I'm not a policymaker, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician, but maybe I can say something. I think I like to think that policymakers, politicians do have the greater good in mind, in the sense of trying to create some benefit for their jurisdictions, improve the lives of the people around them. And I think if you look at Bitcoin, as I mentioned before, I think it's revolutionary in a number of ways, scientifically, but also socially, culturally, economically. And if you have this, you can have a whole new economic ecosystem develop. And so progress and economic development should, of course, be high priorities for policymakers. And so I think, there's a lot of potential here that can be harnessed. And I guess my only advice then would be, when making policy, is just try to educate yourself, make educated decisions, do research. Don't get fooled by like superficial arguments. Like there's two examples. One is, Bitcoin's just used for money laundering. Another one is Bitcoin is bad for the environment. But I think these are quite superficial arguments. With respect to money laundering, it's a drop in the bucket compared to how much money is laundered using US dollars, especially US dollar cash. And furthermore, if you actually look at the details, Bitcoin, even though it's hard to seize, right now it's quite easy to track. And so if someone is doing money laundering, they can be tracked and identified relatively easily with Bitcoin. So I think that's an important fact. And then with respect to green, the environment and clean energy and things like that, I think Bitcoin, of course, takes energy to keep it secure. But also, I think, and many other people have more eloquently spoken to this, but basically it incentivizes green energy, because in order to keep it secure, you need to use energy to mine blocks and make the blockchain, so on and so on. You don't have to worry about the technical details. But the thing there is that there's an incentive for these miners to seek out the cheapest forms of energy and to seek out trapped forms of energy. And the cheapest form of energy is going to be clean energy, green energy. And so Bitcoin basically provides a capital incentive, like a reward for people to develop green energy even before the demand for the actual energy itself exists. And so I think that in order to combat environmental damage, Bitcoin is one of the best actual incentives to do that.